Not. Te. They. Viduhu. No. Swa-artha-gatim. The ultimate goal of life. Or their own real interest. He. Indeed. Vishnum. Lord Vishnu and his abode. Durashayaha. Being ambitious to enjoy this material world. Yea. Who? Bahi. External sense objects. Artamaninaha. Considering as valuable. Andaha. Persons who are blind. Yata. Just as. Andahai. By other blind men. Upaniyamanaha. Being led. Te. They. Api. Although. Ishatantriyam. To the ropes. Laws of material nature. Uru. Having very strong. Damni. Cords. Baddha. Bound. So translation. Persons who were strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home, back to Godhead, and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. As blind men guided by another blind man miss the right path and fall into a ditch, materially attached men led by another materially attached man, are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Since there must always be a difference of opinion between demons and devotees, Hiranyakashipu, when criticized by his son Prahlad Maharaj, should not have been surprised that Prahlad Maharaj differed from his way of life. Nonetheless, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry and wanted to rebuke his son for deriding his teacher or spiritual master who had been born in the Brahmin family of the great Acharya, Shukracharya. The word Shukra means semen, and Acharya refers to a teacher or guru. Hereditary gurus or spiritual masters have been accepted everywhere since time immemorial. But Prahlad Maharaj declined to accept such a seminal guru or take instructions from him. An actual guru is Shrotriya, one who has heard or received perfect knowledge through parampara, the disciplic succession. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj did not recognize a seminal spiritual master. Such spiritual masters are not at all interested in Vishnu. Indeed, they are hopeful of material success. Bahir Artha Mananaha. The word Bahi means external, Artha means interest, and Manina means taking very seriously. Generally speaking, practically everyone is unaware of the spiritual world. The knowledge of the materialist is restricted within the 4 billion mile limit of this material world, which is in the dark portion of the creation. They do not know that beyond the material world is the spiritual world. Unless one is a devotee of the Lord, one cannot understand the existence of the spiritual world. Gurus, teachers, who are simply interested in this material world are described in this verse as andha, blind. Such blind men may lead many other blind followers without true knowledge of material conditions, but they are not accepted by devotees like Prahlad Maharaj. Such blind teachers, being interested in the external material world, are always bound by the strong ropes of material nature. So again, Natevidu Swartikatim Vishnu the Rasya Ye Bahavirarta Maninaha. Andayatanda Rupagia Manas, Upaniya Manas, Tepishatantriya Murdamni, Vadaha. So, Omagana, Timidanda Shat, Gananjana, Shlakaya, Chakshur, Meditam, Yena, Tasmai, Shi, Gurave Namaha. So, here, Prahlad Maharaj is criticizing his guru. Oh my God. But you notice, he doesn't use his guru's name. Like Prabhupada said, when you're criticized, someone asks, about some bogus person, you could do one or two things. You can say, what are his teachings? And then attack the teachings. Or you can say, who's that? Just like Prabhupada would do both things. And sometimes Prabhupada would actually directly lay into the particular individual and say, I remember I was listening yesterday, Prabhupada did that with Maharishi. We mentioned Maharishi, Mahayesh Yogi. He was very popular in the 1960s, and he was selling mantras by which one could become liberated. Started with $35 for a mantra, then it became $125. The law of supply and demand. And actually all of his disciples, when they later on compared their secret mantras, they all had the same 1 or 2, 3 mantras. They were seed mantras, like Aim or Klim. And he told them, this is your personal mantra, secret mantra. Of course, you have Ramanujacharya. He was given a mantra, and he was told by his guru not to distribute that mantra anywhere because it could liberate everybody. And then he went to the top of the tallest building and chanted the mantra, and he wanted everyone to get liberated. The guru got angry, but Ramanujacharya explained that he was ready to go to hell to save everybody, and then the guru basically said, you're my guru. So during the 1960s, yes, there was this bogus person. And then Prabhupada, it was an interesting time when Prabhupada was getting ready to leave this world. He was with Tamal Krishna Maharaj in Rishikesh. They'd gone for good weather and everything like that. And the disciples of Maharishi started to visit Srila Prabhupada and hear from Prabhupada. Then Maharishi sent Prabhupada a message through one of his disciples that we're very concerned about your health. We want you to just rest. And Prabhupada said, because he's worried, I'm going to take away his disciples. So he's saying this. So that's a bogus guru. And actually that's a contradiction in terms. You say bogus guru. Because if someone's a guru, they're qualified. Guru means heavy with knowledge. Bogus, light heavy. Anyway. So here we're talking about, getting back to the point. So Prahlad Maharaj is not directly mentioning Shukracharya's name. He's just talking about the philosophy, and the whole point of worshiping a seminal guru or someone who doesn't know the truth, who is blind. Now, Shukracharya is a very interesting personality. He got to be Shukracharya, that is the Acharya, the seminal Acharya, and he got to be the Acharya of the demons because there was some competition. This is told in the Mahabharata. There was some competition who would be the priest of the demigods, and Brihaspati won the competition. And so he was really upset that he didn't win the competition, and became very, very angry and said, if I can't win the competition to be the guru of the demigods, I'll become the guru of their competitors, which is the demons. And there's a lot of history about Shukracharya. For example, there's that whole story of Lord Vamanadev, where Shukracharya was the guru of Bali Maharaj. And of course that happened later on after this, because Bali Maharaj is the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. So, but there's that whole story where he had his eye put out by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Vamanadev, and then he became even angrier at the devotees. And there's also the story of how he incarnated in Jagannath Puri later on. Some of you may have heard this story. and he came up with this bogus mantra, Bhaja Nitai Gaur Radhe Sham Japa Hari Krishna Hari Ram. He was the one who originated that bogus mantra. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur challenged him, and there was almost a riot in Jagannath Puri, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had to save his son by sending him out of Jagannath Puri, because this personality, who Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said was an incarnation of Shukracharya, was creating problems. So Shukracharya is generally really interested in creating problems for the devotees. I mean, in the Ramayana, of course, you have Shukracharya's whole idea is to have Kekasi approach Vishravas. You know that story? Anyway, he's not a Ram Bhakti, he doesn't know. He's from a different place in India. So anyway, so you had the demons were really upset because they couldn't win any of the wars, so they decided, Shukracharya had this idea that he wanted a Brahma Rakshasa. And so, in other words, you combine a Brahman with a Rakshasini and you get a Brahma Rakshasa. So he sent, Shukracharya's idea was to send Kekasi to approach the sage Vishravas, who is also the father of Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods. And Kekasi approaches Vishravas and allures him, and as a result, they had some nice kids, like Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and one nice kid, Vibhishan, and Surpanaka. Sorry, I left out the most beautiful girl, Surpanaka. Anyway, so that's Shukracharya, and he's completely envious. And another point about seminal gurus that's very important to understand is they are dependent upon those who are paying their salaries. See, that's not a Brahmin. A Brahmin, according to the Vedic or Vaishnava tradition, must take a vow of poverty. And he must actually be ready to, like Chandakya Pandit, who was advising Maharaj Chandragupta, be ready to just leave at a moment's notice if he disagrees with his disciple or whoever he is advising. And that's what happened with Chanakya. And so, as soon as a Brahmin takes a salary for his Brahminical work, see, a Brahmin can have some secondary occupation where he makes money. But if a Brahmin is taking salary or dependent upon those who are giving him money, it perverts and contaminates his whole Brahminical nature and whatever he's saying too. So that's another aspect of the Shukracharya, or the seminal disciplic succession. In fact, in the the Jaiva Dharma of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there's an interesting story. There's one great devotee, actually there's several great devotees in the story. One, his name is Brajanath, and the other one is Vijay Kumar, his uncle. And Brajanath is a very expert person in Nyaya and also presenting the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he presents to his guru that, Guru Maharaj, I'm making my living by presenting Srimad Bhagavatam. And he says, is this an offense? And Guru Maharaj says, yes, it's a big offense to make your living in such a way like this. But because you didn't know and you're admitting it, you should stop that immediately and make your living in some other activity that has nothing to do with your preaching. So, there are certain activities. Of course, a Brahmin, according to the strict Vedic conception, has other activities which we can't do nowadays, like picking up grains in the, silochana, picking up grains in the field and things like that. But nowadays, just to be practical, sometimes a Brahmin has to have a job. But the idea is that one shouldn't contaminate his Brahminical activities by living off of the Brahminical activities. Because it really, you start to think after a while, I'll do a havan for this person because, he'll give a bigger donation like that. You even have that story in the Bhagavatam of Maharaj Nimi and Vashishta Muni, Maharaj Nimi wanted to do a sacrifice, and he said to his guru, we'd like to do a sacrifice. And Vashishta Muni said, well, we have to wait a little while. I have an appointment with the demigods. And Maharaj Nimi understood that he was going to the demigods because the demigods give bigger contributions. And so he got a little frustrated with his guru, did the sacrifice anyway. The guru comes back, curses him to die. There's a story in the Bhagavatam. And he dies, and he gets so upset with his guru that he curses guru to die. That's a nice reciprocal relationship with the Guru Maharaj. The Guru says, I curse you to die, and you curse him to die. And they both died. And, of course, Vashishta came back through the semen of Mitra and Varuna later on. This is a Bhagavatam story. And Maharaj Nimi, he was later brought back to life by the sages during the sacrifice, and he said, I don't want to be back to life. And they let him die and go back to Godhead. And they basically genetically cloned his body. That's called churning. And so Janaka the first was born. Anyway, that's a story in the Ramayana. So we're mixing Ramayana and Bhagavatam. And actually Bhagavatam does talk about that too. So, anyway, so getting back to the point about what one should have, or what qualities one should have to be a guru, these are specifically mentioned in addition to the whole Brahminical qualities of Samadhamma Tapaksho Chambashanti Ravjum Evacha Gyanaviganam Astikyam Brahma Karma Subhavajam. That's in addition to those qualities. Those qualities are being, equipoised, self-controlled, austere, clean, tolerant, religious, studying literatures, the Vaishnava literatures, and applying, so that's foundational. But in addition to that, there's other qualities that are utilized, or other standards of judgment that are utilized to see if someone is a bona fide spiritual teacher. And those are mentioned, Tadviganartam Sagurumeva Bigachet Samitpani Shrotrium Brahmanishtam. So this is another very important verse, that one must accept a guide. Why must one accept a guide? Because we're conditioned souls and we're subject to the frailties of conditioned souls. We have imperfect senses, you all know these things. We make mistakes, we have a tendency to cheat, and we are in illusion. We think we're the body. We make plenty of mistakes. We see things that don't exist and don't see things that do exist, right? And we're generally cheating others because we're posing ourselves as authorities, and really we're just like speculating. So because of that, Tadviganartama Eva Abhigachet, one must aspire to be a bona fide guru, a bona fide guide in spiritual life, in addition to the Brahminical qualities. Then Samitpani Shrotriam Brahmanishtam. Samitpani actually is very interesting. It means fetching firewood or water for the spiritual master. Now that, what does that mean exactly? That if one is a bona fide guru, one should be seen to fetch water or firewood. Quality, excuse me, to the highest degree. And of course we've mentioned this many times over the last few days, the last few years, that, Srila Prabhupada took the instructions of his spiritual master as his life and soul. In fact, Prabhupada was very struck when he read the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmika Buddhir Ekeha Kuranandana Bahushakta Swanantascha, etc. When Prabhupada read that verse, and the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur connected to the point of one-pointed determination to serving the order of the spiritual master. So when Prabhupada read that, he just it furthered his determination, to carry out the order of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we mentioned many times the last 2 days that Prabhupada, the essential quality that Prabhupada has that really differentiates him from practically all of his godbrothers is his Guru Bhakti, absolute Guru Bhakti. Not to say that they didn't have some devotion for their Guru, but Prabhupada had absolute devotion. He's ready to go to hell to serve the spiritual master. So that's what Samit Pani is. And then Shrotriyam. Shrotriyam is another important quality. That means one must have heard nicely from the spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada, it was interesting, the only question he says that he ever asked the spiritual master was, how could I serve you? You know, sometimes we have so many questions we ask, like, is there snow in the spiritual world? You know, people have asked me that question. Yeah, is there snow? Is there skiing? You know, can I go bungee jumping in the spiritual world? So there's so many questions, but Prabhupada asked, you know, how can I serve you? And another indication of Prabhupada's exalted position is in the pastimes of his interaction with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. There's one time they were on Parikrama in Vrindavan, and the devotees announced that tonight we're going to see this Shirodakshai Vishnu. Actually, remember we saw that. It's a really interesting deity. It's Vishnu with all the demigods around him, with Lord Brahma coming from his navel. Remember we went to the temple? That was interesting. But anyway, they announced that tonight we're going to see, and anybody who wants to stay back, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will be here. So just about everybody left, except for Prabhupada and one or two of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's servants, because they were trying to see something. But what will you see with your eyes? You know, we see with our ears. What is it? Shru shru shro shradananasha vasudeva katavrichi. Shan mahat sevya viprat punya tirthana shevanat. We serve by seeing with our ears. And, you know, what will we see? You know, we see the deities with our eyes, obviously. But the real self-realization is, you know, bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata to joshanadasya pavargavardmani shradavatirvakti anukrameshati, which means coming from the sound vibration from the pure devotee enters in the ears, karna, and it goes to the hrit, or the heart. So, anyway, so Prabhupada stayed, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarked, he likes to hear. Because there was one time, it's an interesting story, when Prabhupada was at a class of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and one of his godbrothers was saying something, and Prabhupada just talking to him, and then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, you know, well, if you're so intelligent, something like this, you should give a class. He chastised him because Prabhupada was talking during the class. And nowadays, I don't know what Prabhupada would do if people's mobile phones would go off in the middle of class. I mean, we didn't have mobile phones at that time. But I remember Prabhupada was very sensitive about sound. I mean, I think Prabhupada would have gotten really angry about that. So anyway, so Prabhupada, he liked to hear, and another proof that he liked to hear was that when he wrote that poem, absolute ascension thou hast proved, and personal calamity thou hast moved. And when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his spiritual master, heard that poem, he said, he has understood my mission. That means he heard nicely. It's amazing. And then he said, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, whatever he writes, you publish it immediately. So that's another indication of Prabhupada's exalted position as being an absolutely perfect guide. That's Shrotriyam. And then last one, of course, is Brahma Nishtam. Brahma Nishtam refers to the platform in devotional service called Nishta, or steadiness. And according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Nishta means 24/7. Not just you got good sadhana, and then the rest of the day all hell breaks loose. You know, you have a great morning program, chanting and dancing, and then after, thank God the morning's program is over now. Like Prabhupada one time jokingly he was chanting his japa and he pulled down the last of the counter beads and said, I finished my 16 rounds, now I can do any damn thing. So that's not nishta. That means, it's good you have good sadhana, but nishta means all day long you're simply engaged in Krishna's service. That was Prabhupada. I mean, all day long, Prabhupada was engaged in Krishna's service. I mean, of course, Prabhupada did have, let's say, close personal relationships with many of his disciples, like hear about with Samal Krishna Maharaj, like we're reading the TKG's diary. And, Prabhupada sometimes would joke with devotees. He wasn't just like a machine. There's that story with Shrutakirti, where Prabhupada one time looked at Shrutakirti's feet, and he said, your mother must be very beautiful. And Shrutakirti said, yes, but how did you know? And Prabhupada said, because your feet are very beautiful. So, Prabhupada, he was a person too. It's not just like some robot. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Prabhupada is a very real person. That's why we're stressing that the devotee should be reading the biographies about Prabhupada and understand how Prabhupada acted and Prabhupada's likes and dislikes. And of course, at the same time, there are certain things, let's say that Prabhupada liked as far as diet. It's not that everybody has to like the same. Prabhupada is a person with personal tastes. Prabhupada considered certain fruits or vegetables. I mean, for example, Prabhupada considered that potatoes were the king of vegetables. I don't eat potatoes. Does that mean I'm in Maya? Yeah, that means, I'm a guru drohi, because I don't eat potatoes. An offender towards my spiritual master. But no, Prabhupada was a person. But as a person, his focus, his complete determination, one-pointed, was to serve his spiritual master. And in the service of the spiritual master, to bring us closer to Krishna. And obviously part of that is being a person. Nobody's going to be attracted to a robot. No matter how expert they make robots nowadays. Androids they're called. I'm not talking about the operating system on your phone. I'm talking about anyway, artificial people. So because Prabhupada had those qualities, we understand he's the perfect guide. So we should be very careful when accepting guidance from anyone to ascertain whether they have those qualities. Just to reiterate, first thing is the Brahminical qualities. They must be, and then also Vacho Vegam Manasa, that's part of Brahminical qualities. Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam Jivo Vegam Mudur Pasta Vegam, as the Nectar of Instruction states, controlling the tongue, belly, genitals, mind, anger, and words. But these are preliminary, because sometimes you may find a Mayavadi who controls the tongue, belly, genitals, mind, anger, and words. So these are like foundational preliminary. But the actual qualities, most important quality, the primary qualities that are the secondary qualities, are the qualities of Samitpani, Shropshri, and Brahmanishtam. That's the primary quality. You have, primary and secondary qualities. So, anyway, that's how we know who to accept. And Shukracharya was not one of those people. He was interested in his own salary, because, if you become a Kula Guru and you don't satisfy the people you're working for, you're out of a job. It's like, you work a job. I mean, you really have to be nice to your boss, right? You can't just talk back and say, I don't like it that you're eating meat. Even if you're a devotee, you have to be careful. So somehow or other, working a job, really, at the job, you have to step down from a Brahminical platform to be a good employee, don't you? Otherwise, you'll never keep your job. So, but at least in our spiritual life, we should be good employees of Prabhupada and try to please Prabhupada. And he's the boss. as they say in Fiji. Is it? Bosso Levo. You know what that means? That means the big boss in Fijian. Bosso Levo. No? You never heard that before? It is Fijian. Bosso Levo. Anyway, I learned certain things by being in Fiji. So anyway, so Prabhupada we can trust. Prabhupada is not swayed by ulterior motives. Whereas Shukracharya, he's being swayed by ulterior motives, and Prahlad Maharaj is rejecting him. It says, if you have a bogus guru, then you better reject him. Because if you don't, both the guru and the disciple go to hell. So, got to be careful. So, any questions or comments about these points? Comments, arguments, problems, issues? Requests? No? Yes?
Marge, I just have a question about something that was mentioned in the purport.
Okay.
It says here
That?
The material world has, I think it was a 4 billion mile. Is it diameter or a radius?
4 billion mile. I think it's a diameter.
Yeah. So, in
This material world, there's many material worlds,
it's referring
many
to
universes.
the
This is just this universe, yeah.
So in modern science, they say that they detect things billions of light years away. So if they are doing that, are they detecting things in other universes? Or?
Possible. Yeah, it's possible. Other universes, there's unlimited universe, like mustard seeds in a bag of mustard seeds, so it's possible whatever they're detecting, or maybe Krishna's just bewildering them by shining lights, with different spectra to make them think certain things. There was once a movie many years ago about someone who was, forget the name of the movie. It's not important, it's just Maya. So, someone who was born on a movie set.
Oh, the Truman Show.
Yeah, Truman Show. Someone who's
You
born.
have to watch it for English.
Yeah, someone is really. You are educated. Someone who's born on a movie set, and they had like the stars, artificial stars, and everything like that. And he thought, I'm living in the real world, but it was just a movie set. So it's interesting. Anyone else see that? No. You're the only one who saw it.
Yeah.
You have to watch it for school, right? Yeah. So it was. I use that sometimes when we're preaching to university students to show them what an illusion is. Because Krishna's arranged this in the movie set. He's thinking someone is my mother, someone's my father, someone's his wife, etc., like that, and they're all just actors. And at the end of the movie, he actually becomes liberated. This is the metaphor, because he breaks out of the movie set and goes out into the real world. So in the same way, we're in this movie set of Maya, where we think things are real in the sense of eternal, they continue to exist. And Krishna says in the Gita, Nasato vijate bhavo, na bhavo vijate sataha, uviyorapi drishtavantas, twanios tatvadarshibhi, that those things which are temporary are unreal. That's his definition of reality. So we're in this set where, everything, the set is changing all the time, the bodies are changing all the time, and all of us are being manipulated by the modes of nature. Another verse in the Gita, Nahikas Jetshanamapi Jatatishtati Akarmakrit. So because of that, it's just like on that movie set, and it's all temporary. Like Prabhupada said, Abhati Sananta Saraswati Thakur, no, it's Prabhupada who said, the whole show is only temporary. And Shakespeare, of course, says, life struts and fruts as time upon the stage and then is heard no more. Anyway, these are different quotes. So, that's the nature of this world, and we just take it seriously, and it's just a show. And at the end of this, Bhutva Bhutva Paliyate, at the end of this creation, it becomes wound up and amalgamated in the Lord's body, and again created. So therefore, it's like that. It's like a movie set, and we think we're the stars. Anyway, it's good they make you watch movies like that. These are educational because they have a message. Many of the movies in Hollywood actually have a message. The Bollywood movies rarely have a message. Rarely. I mean, except for something like Oh My God, that movie there. But there's many that have a message, and I use the knowledge of these movies in preaching Krishna consciousness when reaching out to the Western people. Because they can relate to it. You know, if I mention The Matrix, for example, they say, oh, I said, that's the material world. We're all in this virtual reality. We're not actually here. It exists. But just like in The Matrix, it exists as a bunch of computer programs. But it didn't exist as the reality that they thought it was. And the material world is like that. The material world exists, but the illusion is that we think it continues to exist, and we think that, you know, there's ultimate reality, and we think that we're part of this material world. So that's the illusion. We're the ones in illusion. You know, in a real sense, the material world is not an illusion. We're an illusion about the material world. It's like the rope or snake example. Like, you know, you see a rope and you think it's a snake. It's not an illusion. It's just that you're seeing it in illusion. Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes?
I mean, just the chronology of the events. So after Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu,
Yeah.
Prahlad Maharaj became king.
Yeah.
He had already rejected Shukracharya. Then how did he happen to be?
Because he was respectful. It's not that,
Okay.
you know, you follow ordinary etiquette.
So he wasn't removed from his position.
Yeah, he wasn't Get out of here, Guru Maharaj. You know, there's ordinary etiquette. Like Prabhupada said, even we respect a king or a president or prime minister because we understand they've been put there by God. So he followed the etiquette and of relating with Shukracharya, although he obviously didn't follow his instructions.
Was Shukracharya really that bad that he wasn't teaching his disciples to go back to Godhead? I mean, because Krishna...
He was teaching them sometimes to worship Krishna, but with the idea of getting material goods from it.
Right.
Like he did with Bali Maharaj.
Because in 1037, Krishna says...
No, he wasn't so bad. Sometimes he prayed, you hear about these prayers.
Yes.
But I think when Shukracharya offers prayers in the Bhagavatam, he's doing it under duress. After he's been defeated.
After he's been punished.
Yeah, after he's been punished, it's just like
Yes.
I twist someone's arm behind their back and say, chant Hare Krishna, So that you'll find in the instances in the Bhagavatam when Shukracharya offers prayers, it's something that's happened before that. It's not so cool for Shukracharya.
Yes.
So, he's not a pure devotee. He does have some inclination to worship it, and then he gets angry with Vishnu. Like I described, he comes up with this bogus mantra, Bhaja Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam, Japa Hare Krishna Hare Ram, which basically means it's against Lord Chaitanya's teachings. The mantra says, you can chant loudly Nitai Gaur Radhe Shyam, but you shouldn't chant on Sankirtan Hare Krishna. That's what the mantra says. You should chant softly only. So it goes against Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Lord Chaitanya taught us to chant loudly. And that in his discussion with Haridas Thakur, it was stated by Haridas Thakur that the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra can liberate all living entities, even living entities who are immobile, like trees and plants. So, I'm sure Prahlad Maharaj is respectful. He's not gonna, like kick the poor Shukracharya out, He needs a job, just like...
But
he was risking his children with the Sukracharya?
No, it's not mentioned how he got his children educated. But, I'm not sure. I have no information about how Prahlad Maharaj educated his children. And Shukracharya, I would be just speculating as far as how that happened. But the point is what I made in the beginning, when the guru or the acharya is accepting money or dependent on the disciple, it perverts everything. Like you have Kripacharya is a similar example, and Dronacharya is a similar example. They were both dependent. There's that whole story about Dronacharya. He was very poor, and Ashwatthama didn't have any milk to drink. You know the story in the Mahabharata?
Yes.
And then so he took employment just so he could have some decent living. And because he took employment, and then he had to fight on the wrong side. As soon as you become beholden to someone who is not Krishna conscious, you become contaminated. Even Karna, he became beholden to Duryodhana. And he knew he was doing the wrong thing, but out of, so-called friendship, he did it. And so, Kripacharya similarly. Kripacharya fought on the wrong side too. Of course, Kripacharya wasn't killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra, and later on he was accepted as the Kula Guru by the Pandavas, one of the Kula Gurus by the Pandavas when they went back to Hastinapur. So, but still, if you become dependent on the mercy of others, you actually, who are not Krishna conscious,
You compromise your independence.
you compromise your whole spirituality. Everything's compromised. Your life becomes compromised when you become dependent. Even materially, if you become dependent on someone who is, let's say, very degraded, you get compromised. I mean, like Vibhishan, he just walked out on Ravan. Vidura just walked out on Duryodhana. He didn't just change his philosophy. Vidura, he wanted to stick to his philosophy, so he went on pilgrimage during the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra. So you really, just let's say even if one's not a devotee, and you're dependent on, say, your father-in-law or something like that who's maintaining you, and he's just like a really degraded, dacoit, then you become like that. By association, by dependence, by control. I mean, I would never want to be dependent on someone who is materialistic or demoniac like that. Then you have to praise them. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, I hate to use this example. I can't even say his name. He who cannot be named is the President of the United States. Then he has these people who are his chumchaws, and they just have to agree with him, but somehow or other try to control him from, destroying the world at the same time. What a situation to be in. You have, for example, his press secretary, I'm not going to mention her name. It's so ridiculous if you see her. She has to lie for him and cover up all of his inequities. This woman, and she goes before the TV interviews, and they just say, "You're lying," and then she just, beats around the bush, so to speak, starts talking about something else. And that's what happens when you just accept employment from a rascal. You have to lie, you have to cheat, you have to steal. And there's so many stories, both Vedic and non-Vedic, about this. So better to be independent. Better be like Chanakya, ready to just go, rather than lose your brahminical status.
And Bhishma Dev was also faced with a similar dilemma.
Yeah. Well, Bhishma Dev it was a different dilemma. He was attached to the principle of telling the truth, even when telling the truth resulted in adharmic gave you a dharmic result. That was a little bit different. It's not that he was really, Bhishma Dev was not really dependent on them. You know, he didn't think, I need them to eat, I have a nice room. You know, he was a fierce Kshatriya. But he was bewildered by the concept that, we've mentioned before, that dharma comes from following rules rather than understanding the consequence of an action. You know, this is the whole principle of ethics and morality. What is ethical, what is moral? Something that has a good consequence, or just the rule itself?
So he was like a follower of the black letter law.
Yeah, he was niyamagraha. You understand? Like it said, you know, in the Upanishad, I mean the Nectar Instruction, Achahara Prayasacha Prajalpam Niyama Janasanga Shaloyam Jasadvirvakta Vinashati, that following the rules and regulations without understanding the purpose is a detriment, or takes one away from Krishna consciousness. I think we have to end here on that happy note. And these are all important verses. I mean, every verse is important. Okay, thank you very much. All glory is to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada.